Hey Morgan, how's it going?
What's up?
Not much. How does it feel being less than 2 weeks out now from your Invicta debut?
I just can't wait to get in there and get the fight done. I think most fighters would say the same thing, like through all the training, you just can't wait to get to that fight.
Yeah, absolutely. I've heard it described as, being like waiting for a holiday. You put in all the work and, you're paying your debt, so to speak, before.
Yeah, I feel like it's more like waiting for a graduation. You know what I mean? You've been doing all the work and everything like that, and you're ready to take the test.
Yeah, absolutely. I just graduated in May from Notre Dame, so
Wow! Congrats! All
thanks.
right,
I'm still riding that high a little bit, so I hope you feel the same way.
a lot of drinks, man. A lot of drinks.
A little too much, maybe, but I've been good since dieting and kickboxing and stuff. So I'm getting in shape. I'm getting there.
There you go.
So have you ever been to Colorado? Have you thought much about the change in altitude and stuff?
Yeah, I've been to Colorado before. I didn't notice it very much. I'm sure once I get up there and start training, it'll be a little different. But we have Mount Charleston up here, and
Hmm.
I think it gets to like 8,000 feet too. So I've gone up there a few times and trained, and it definitely you know wins you pretty quickly. But other than that, I don't think it's that crazy.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear it. So you're an Army vet, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I gotta ask, did you know much hand-to-hand combat going into the army? And did they teach you much in training and stuff?
Yeah, so there's combatives. You have combatives level 1 and level 2, and it gets pretty crazy. And I already had been doing like wrestling in high school, and I already started jujitsu and MMA before I joined. And so when I joined in basic training, they had combatives level 1, and so I killed it in that because I know how to do all that stuff, and everybody else is like, "What the hell are we doing here?" And so it was pretty cool. I don't know if a lot of people like passed the test or like went on, but I went on to like combatives level 2, but that got pretty hard. And when I like got in, after I graduated, I joined the Fort Irwin combatives team, and that was like some tough training. Like that shit was hard. And once you get into like the all army combatives tournament, like that shit is straight UFC. Like
Yeah.
it starts out like you can slap and stuff like that in like these tournaments. You got to work your way up to get into it. And
Hmm.
so I just remember this one time I went with this dude, and he was just like he got me on the ground and like into a position I couldn't move. And he was just slapping the shit out of me. Like it sucked so bad. That was like the worst position ever. But other than that, like it definitely helped me, excel in combatives. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I can imagine. So was combatives one like very, very basic stuff like boxing 101, and I'm assuming like a little bit of, getting out from like hip escape, very basic jujitsu like hip escapes and stuff.
Yeah, it's not necessarily boxing, it's more like close combat because
Mhm.
like, you're supposed to be up against somebody, they have a weapon, you get close to them.
Yeah.
So you do stuff like kimuras and
Hmm.
basically like mount. It definitely has more jujitsu in it than anything else, I would definitely say.
Yeah, kind of like more about neutralizing the weapon and then getting to a dominant position.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Breaking
Yeah,
some shit.
yeah. The competition in it sounds a bit like the old Pancrase days.
Dude, it was nuts. Like they had octagons all it was in Fort Hood, Texas, and like these guys, like some of them got to train like year round. And I remember our team, we only trained like 2 weeks out. So when we got there, we were like kids in a candy store. It was
Yeah,
crazy.
no, I can imagine. Um, so you were on the season 2019 season of the PFL, if
Yeah.
I'm recalling that correct.
Yeah.
And man, they really threw you to the dogs. I mean, Sarah Kaufman and Kayla Harrison back to
Yeah.
back. That
Yeah.
that's some pretty tough matchmaking because
Definitely.
prior to that, as far as I'm aware, your most of your professional experience was in uh
Gladiator challenge.
yeah, Gladiator Challenge, and you
Yeah.
went like was it 5-1 in there?
I believe 4-1. My very
4-1?
first fight with them, we went all 3 rounds in my first fight. So, and then it went to decision. But after that, like the next ones were pretty easy. Like I don't time total in the cage was less than 2 minutes, I think.
Yeah, I was looking at the stats and I saw a couple finishes on YouTube. It was pretty nuts. After seeing those finishes, I can't really blame them for throwing you to Sarah and
Yeah.
Kayla, but I mean, damn, Sarah's fought everybody, and obviously, Kayla looks just
Well,
crazy.
she's a 2-time Olympic gold medalist in judo.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? So she's
yeah,
been training like hardcore for forever.
yeah, absolutely. She's like a lightweight Ronda Rousey.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I heard they were roommates for a while.
Really, I hadn't
And
actually heard.
Ronda was only a bronze medalist, she was a savage, but
Yeah.
Kayla's a 2-time.
Yeah, it's crazy. You did mention that your first fight went to the decision. Obviously, with Invicta, they utilize open scoring a lot. Do you feel that having had knowledge of the scorecards in that bout that went to the judges, do you think it would have helped you, or do you think it would have messed with your head a little bit? If you're going into the third and you know it might be one each, and it might push the pressure up. How do you think having that open scorecard um is going to benefit or hinder you in Invicta?
Um, I don't think that there's any hindrance at all because, I mean, you either know you won the first round or you lost the first round. So, I mean, I'd assume, and I'm going to pick it up either way, you know what I mean? Because you want to win the most rounds or finish it right there. So if you're down, then you got to finish it, or if you're up, you either got to finish it or keep going. So I think it's beneficial for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a little conflicted on the open scoring myself. I've seen a few Cage Warriors cards and a few other cards that haven't utilized it, but a fighter's been pretty clearly up the first two, and then the fatigue starts to kick in, and you're up 2 rounds. You just got to get it to the end, and it does. Even without the open scoring, and that's my personal opinion, but that's not to say that the judging system doesn't need a massive overhaul. I'm personally in favor of adding another 2 teams of 3 judges, but
Yeah, I mean, it definitely would suck to have the judges score you other than you thought you did. I mean, that would definitely get in your head. You're like, what the fuck? I thought I won that one, and then then I could see why it would kind of be like a mind fuck right there.
yeah, no, absolutely. I think there was a little bit of that on last night's UFC card from what I saw on Twitter, but I haven't seen the card myself yet, so I'm
When did
not.
they start implementing that?
Who? Sorry.
When did they start implementing like open scoring?
With Invicta, I'm not entirely sure when they started. I think they've had it for like a while, but it hasn't been implemented anywhere else. I just mean that, I heard that Michael Johnson thought that he was had won the first and the second. I think he thought he won, and then
Yeah, for sure. Because then you're like, all right, I lost, or I mean, I won this one. Like, let me kind of, cruise through this one or something like that. Like, so I
yeah,
guess it could cause some confusion to the fighter. I
yeah,
guess it all depends on your corner too, like however they want to deliver it. Because I'm assuming they're the ones that are telling you.
yeah. That for me personally is another massive reason why I think open scoring is perhaps not the silver bullet that a lot of people seem to think that it is for the scoring, because what happens if you have like a really tough round and in like the first round and it's a 10-8, and your coaches have to say, hey, look, you got 10-8'd. You need to finish the fight or
Yeah.
loss. I personally think that would just be, so demotivating. But I could also see, I think it would make me dig deeper and push for, I'd be shooting the double leg and just trying to get to the back and get
Yeah.
as soon as possible.
I
So
mean, it is what it is. You just gotta go in there and get it done, right?
you got to look for the finish. You can't be, standing on the outside and kicking legs and stuff.
Yeah.
Speaking of, I have to ask, did you see the 276 main event?
Who was that? Who fought?
Izzy and Cannoneer.
No, but I've been seeing all like the backlash from it. I heard that like the walkout was pretty awesome and insane, and then the fight was just, it was all 25 minutes. It was kind of uneventful.
Yeah, they by the end of it, they looked like they had had a pretty hard sparring session. But I also think that compared to the Volkanovski Holloway fight immediately before it, that painted the canvas with blood.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, sometimes that happens. I feel like the main event sometimes that like it'll go down like that. Like what was it? The Connor and Aldo fight. It was like 5 seconds, I think.
yeah, yeah,
And it's like it happens and then it was done and you're like, oh, what the fuck? Like I just got ready and sat down. Like this was the one and just have my beer in my hand. You know what I mean?
yeah. If I'd have been there for that, there wouldn't have been any beer left in that cup. It would have been all over the place. Uh so yeah, it's been what 2.5 years since nearly 3 since you.
3. Yeah. I mean, I just think 3, and I'm pretty sure it's been 3 years since I fought.
Yeah. Do you have any, worries about ring rust or, any uh do you feel fresh? Do you feel ready for it?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel ready for it. I've been training, but the whole thing about fighting is like it's all about getting that experience in the cage. Like that's the whole thing, and that's what kind of helps a fighter get better because there's so much that goes into that whole event. You know what I mean? Like the people, the week leading up to it, like the weight cut, things like that. Like it's really, really mental, and I haven't had that much experience, and I need to get more of that. So it has been a while. But other than that, like every other fight that I did was always like I did like 1 year or like one fight a year. So I definitely need to pick up that level so I can get the mental game right on that in the first place.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I know the feeling. Would you like to fight again this year
Yeah.
or
Yeah,
early?
no, definitely. Hopefully I could get one in December at least, maybe November, December. I'd like to keep it up maybe like at least twice a year. It's kind of hard with, other organizations like UFC, they have fights every weekend, but I know it's harder because Invicta, I don't think there's that many opponents in my weight class.
Yeah, I don't think there's many opponents in your weight class because you're a natural featherweight, right? That's what you identify as a natural featherweight.
Yeah, I've never fought any lighter than 145.
Yeah,
So
it's
155 was the PFL fights, but
mhm,
that's kind of like almost my walk around weight anyways. So
yeah,
not like I really had to cut very much for that, but I don't want to have to cut that much weight in the first place just because it's so draining. I mean, I did that in wrestling like a long time ago. I did it the wrong way and I cut way too much. And then by the time it was the match, like I just had no energy. So it's like you can't even put any of your hard effort in there because you put it all through the weight cut.
yeah, absolutely. You always hear athletes and fighters talking about the first fight's the scale, and
Yeah.
if you're pushing yourself half to death, trying to beat that little magic number, you can't expect. I'm a massive opponent of weight
Of the
cutting,
scale.
of just of weight cutting in general. I think it's a
Yeah.
horrible, horrible practice. It's like I can't imagine dehydrating yourself that much just to just fight at your healthy weight, and you see it a lot. I'm trying to think. Jill Courtney, obviously is a atom weight in Invicta. She walks basically at, pardon me, at her fight weight. And since she started doing that, she's been cleaning up, and there's loads and loads of examples. Valentina, obviously, on the Rogan podcast, she says she cuts exactly 6 or 7 pounds each fight, and there's no severe dehydration, there's no crazy diet. It's just show up happy, get
Yeah,
some local cuisine the
eat a
night
nice
before.
yeah, eat a nice, meal, not worried about it, and then, like, have on all that water weight from the meal that you had, that's rough.
Exactly, because that post meal water weight's a lot easier to lose than you know Daniel Cormier sitting in
Yeah.
a bathtub on the phone to his wife. Um, Speaking of pre-fight meals, what's the first thing that is there anything that you're like you haven't been allowed to eat during camp that as soon as the fight's over, that's where you're going?
Not necessarily. I mean, I mean, I'm a big candy person. I mean, I love sugar, I love soda, things like that. But I'm really good with my diet and nutrition because
Mhm.
I'm a nutrition coach. So I meal prep. I eat really healthy. So I've made sure that I'm close to the fight weight, anyways, just from everything that we talked about because it's terrible. I don't want to feel like that. Like it's already a huge mental game. Like you're trying not to have injuries with your fight camp, things like that. So like, why not make it easier in one way that you possibly can. And if
Yeah,
you do eat healthy, you can be rewarded. You can have snacks like that. It's
yeah,
just all about serving size and not, overeating and things like that, drinking enough water.
yeah.
So,
The water's huge. I mean, like I'm personally, trying to get back in shape, and I'm dieting pretty hard, but I'm having a little cheat day with a takeaway tonight. So
well, if you need help, man, hit me up. I got you.
I appreciate that hugely. It must be like such a, I don't want to say like a bonus, but like a natural buff, if you might, to be a nutritionist as an athlete, because you hear about people like Patty Pimblett and Paulo Costa, that are like going from nutritionist to nutritionist. You have it all in your head. You don't
Yeah,
need to learn
yeah.
anything else for it.
It definitely does help. I mean, it is, you know, it's a blessing.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so I gotta ask, is there any, female MMA fighters that like you saw one of their fights, like, and you said that's what I gotta do that, or was it kind of just a natural progression, from doing wrestling and jujitsu, and you know that kind of a transition?
Yeah, I mean, with wrestling, I did that in high school because my brothers did it, and I was the only female on the team. And most of the time, like there was no female opponents. Like back when I was in high school, I think I only wrestled two out of like the every season that I did. But it I just love doing it. I just kind of have like that aggression, and I feel like you got to get it out. Wrestling, jiu-jitsu, things like that. And anytime in the past I've been at like a party or like people are drinking and stuff like that, there's always some dude there and he always wants to go. You know what I mean? He's like, all right, let's go till tap, and I'm like, all right, and then I'll like jump in and get like a guillotine really quick, and I'm like, all right, one more. I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna do it again. But I mean, I have I look up to all fighters and mostly like dudes. Like I love some of their styles, but one of my favorite is Holly Holm just because she's like a savage, dude. She's like, I think she's 40 now and she's like still killing it, still in the UFC. So she's somebody to like really look up to. Because I mean, age, like people think about age, especially in sports, especially being a woman, like, and it's just like super impressive. Um, and she's got a great fighting style. She's been able to switch it up, and she's like I said, she's just a savage, and she just keeps progressing. And to hear her say stuff like, like basically just saying she's like almost a white belt, you know, like she's still learning. Like that's crazy. But that's what it's all about is you're constantly learning and the game is constantly changing. And you just got to keep getting better and better.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've interviewed Autumn Norton earlier this week, who obviously is opening the card. And Rhonda, and then Holly were her two picks, and I feel like Holly's just such an ambassador for not just women's mixed martial arts, but boxing as well. You know, Golden Gloves and everything, and
Oh yeah, kickboxing champ, everything.
boxing champ. You know, absolutely ridiculous resume, and yet she's still so humble. And right up until that Kathleen Vieira fight, a few weeks ago, you know, she's still improving and she's still learning. I thought she won that, honestly.
Yeah.
But I guess, you know, maybe if she had uh the open scoring, that might have went differently. It might have given her, you know, hey, it's two each going into the fifth. You gotta
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Especially somebody like her, you know,
yeah,
with that
especially like
knowledge.
her that has that tank to empty. And you know, we've seen how many times has Holly Holm gone 25 minutes. It
Oh
must
yeah.
be she must have one of the longest fight times of any female mixed martial artist ever.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, but there's anytime you see somebody go the distance like that, like you know, all 5 rounds in a championship fight, like it's just you just have so much, you know, appreciation for them because that's just like so much heart. You know, they're sitting there like they're kind of just like, you know, there's just no more energy left and they're just still going at it. And it's just like,
Yeah,
damn.
you can see them almost punching themselves just into passing out from exhaustion.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
Just like still going for the crowd. It's like good for you. Like, damn.
yeah, it's hard enough doing, you know, 5 minutes hitting the pads and then 5 minutes holding them, you know,
Yeah.
and I I can only imagine what it's like whenever you're locked in a cage with somebody that's, you know, trying to put you unconscious. Uh so the my kind of first real experience with mixed martial arts, I started jujitsu when I was about 10.
Oh, good for you. All right.
Yeah, I'd done karate before that, but you know, it didn't stick. I just
Well,
fell.
karate's karate, no offense, but you know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But you know, it was actually a girl in my class that, you know, convinced me, said, "Hey, Jamie, you know, you should come to jiu-jitsu. It's really fun." And my first real training session, her and I were, you know, grappling, and she throws up a flying armbar like out of
Oh shit.
nowhere. And one minute I like had her by the gi and arm, and the next I'm like tapping, and I stood up. I was like, "What was that?" Um, and ever since then, you know, I've like practicing the flying arm bars, but I'm not really built for it.
Yeah,
I'm
those ones you kind of just got to go for. Like, there's no thinking about it.
Yeah, exactly. But my favorite, you know, well, one of my favorite submissions, you know, to drill is the triangle, head and arm triangle specifically. Do you have any particular favorites? You know, to
Um, I mean, one that I just always go to is just, I don't know, it's like automatic. It's just like a rear naked or like a guillotine because always there, especially like with wrestlers, like, you know, when you're in training, like, you know, just kind of put the head there. But yeah, I'd have to say that's my favorite, especially if you get like a back mount and you're on top and you get the legs in and just
yeah,
lock
absolutely.
it in.
Once you get that, you know, even the body triangle or the hooks in from the back, you know, anybody. I mean, I'm one to talk, but you know, I
Yeah,
think anybody with any amount of jiu-jitsu background whatsoever, you know, should be locking that RNC in or at the very least making an attempt. You know, and we've
yeah.
we've seen obviously in a few big fights recently, athletes and fighters failing to do that. So the you seem like you've got like a very good finishing instinct.
I mean, who doesn't if you're like a ground fighter? It's just that's what you're trying to do. That's what the end game is, you know what I mean?
You
You
know,
punch until they give something up. I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes, like, in my past fights, like, I've gotten, like, carried away, and in one of them, I was, like I had a complete back mount, hooks were in, and I was just, like, punching, and she's kinda just, like, laying there, and I, like, kept punching the head, and I'm like, "Well, what the fuck?" And then I heard my coach, and he's like, "Rear neck," he's like, "Choker," and I was like,
It
"Oh,
is.
yeah." Did it, boom, it's done. I'm like, "Thanks, coach."
Yeah, so yeah, 100%. I could imagine the adrenaline, especially if you're giving it and you're not, really receiving anything back, you know. And I think obviously if you're getting to that point where everything's going one way, if the ref isn't stepping in, there
Yeah.
needs to be a discussion, about that.
Yeah, isn't it, like, 20 hits or something like that? Like,
Uh
if
I
they're in a position and you, like, get, like, 20 hits in, I think then
yeah, I'm not
that's around when it should get called, I
yeah,
think.
I'd personally say that. I'd say perhaps even fewer, but I'm not sure if there's an official rule. There might possibly be in Invicta. I'll have to check and verify that. Um, but yeah, one of the things about obviously being in the PFL and having had that experience, the PFL doesn't allow elbows because it's on such a fast tournament style
Yeah, they
pace.
don't want people to get, too cut up. I'd imagine that's why, and they
Yeah,
can get messed up from plenty of other things, but yeah, I mean, it makes sense, but when I did hear that, I was like, "What? Like, no fucking elbows? Like, that sucks."
it's such a core weapon, I suppose, in any athlete's arsenal, especially, for working on the ground. Do you like the elbows? Do you think, having them be illegal in the PFL might have, hindered you? What was it more on your mind than normal that, you can't have that instinct to just throw up the elbow whenever
I
you get
mean, definitely mentally before the fights, like, you're thinking about it, but once I was in there, um, the opponents I was against, there was no chances of me really even throwing any elbows, but, just knowing I can do it now is gonna help 'cause I think it's in Muay Thai, but I mean, you have 8 limbs and then those are your elbows, so it's gonna be really nice to kind of let everything go, if it's there.
to utilize your full skill set.
Who doesn't like throwing elbows? I mean,
Yeah, elbows, gotta love them. Well, this has been fantastic, Morgan. Thank you so much for your time and good luck.
thank you very much, man.
At
Hope
Invicta
you're watching.
48. Oh, I believe me, I
I'll
will
try
be.
and throw some elbows in there for you.
Sorry?
I said I'll try and throw some elbows in there for you.
Perfect. I appreciate it so much. I'll see you later. Good luck.
All right, man. Have a good one.
You too.